Right. Thank you so much. I just have a brief statement on the Zoom element. Good evening, everyone. I have a few housekeeping items for the Zoom meeting. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the city's YouTube channel. Please remember to mute yourself during the meeting when you are not speaking. The chat function for this meeting is disabled. All chats will go directly to me. Unless you are participating during the meeting, please turn your video off. This allows the active meeting participants to be seen on screen. You will still be able to hear the meeting. When you are participating, please turn your video on. If you have any trouble, you can send me a chat. The city reserves the right to mute people or turn individual videos off to minimize distractions during the meeting. Please remember to state your name each time you speak for the benefit of those participating remotely. And now I will turn the meeting back over to Daniel.
Great, thank you, Abby. My name is Daniel B. Smith. I am the chair of the Lawrence Cultural Arts Commission, and we will begin this meeting as we always do with a roll call vote. So if you could say hi here or whatever you want when I call your name, that would be great. Starting with Marlo.
Present.
Denise.
Present.
Mary.
Present.
Dina.
Present.
Marciana.
She's here. Yep.
Present. I'm present.
Great, thank you. Rebecca.
Here.
Jill.
Here.
And Tim.
Present.
All right, great, thank you. It's so nice to see you all. We will move on to the first order of business, which is approving the October minutes. So if any of you have had a chance to look over those, maybe you have complaints. If not, I will ask for a motion to approve those.
This is Tim. I move we approve the October minutes as presented.
Thank you, Tim. Do I have a second?
This is Jill. I will second.
Thank you, Jill. I will once again call a roll call vote, starting with Marlo.
Approve.
Denise.
Here.
Mary.
Approve.
Dina.
Approve.
Oh, what was that, Dina?
Approve.
All right, great, thank you. Marciana.
Approve.
Rebecca.
Approve.
Jill.
Approve.
And Tim.
Approve.
All right, great. Thank you all. And I will approve, passing unanimously, which brings us to public comment. And I know that we have a few folks who are joining us on Zoom. I don't see anybody here in the room, but do we have anybody who's here for public comment?
I think everybody who's in here is on the agenda.
All right, great. Well, I will skip over the little spiel about public comment, if seeing as how we have nobody joining us, and we can move right along to new business. Do you want to introduce our first item of new business? Review of public art proposal from Suzanne Rieger for Stonehawk Daycare?
Yes, I'm going to share my screen here so that we can all see the proposal. Oops, that's not what I want. I want to just hit that. All right. If we have a representative from the Stonehawk Daycare art proposal, go ahead and speak up. I'm not quite sure who's representing, so please go ahead and let me know. Richard, are you a part of this team?
No, I'm not.
Okay. All right. Just checking. Thank you so much. All right. Well, in the absence of a representative, we can just review as a team unless.
Time to look at the proposal. Does anybody have any thoughts? Positive, negative? Even though we don't have a representative here, we can still choose to approve it if it matches up with our criteria.
Just to frame this, I know this is a very different kind of proposal than we normally get, and I was hoping that they would be here to answer some of our questions. And I think this is a learning opportunity for us to review a different kind of proposal, and I don't think that there's any pressure on us to approve something that we don't feel comfortable with. So if it takes some pressure off tonight just to review and have some conversation about this, I can definitely take note of all of the questions that we have for the project and also for Porter, and get back to you all if that's helpful.
I do have a question. It's really more of a comment. And that is, there are no visuals that were submitted except for architectural drawing and elevation descriptions. So I don't know what we can even talk about except for the background of the person who did the drawings. So it's a little confusing.
Yes, and I was wondering, how this would go, and I'm new to this process as well, and so I was definitely hoping that they would have a representative here tonight to answer some questions. Yeah, the absence of a visual is a big deal, I think, and that's something we can definitely, I can communicate back to her and say, hey, we need a little bit more concrete of a visual with a proposal of this nature.
And I also have another comment because the proposal made clear that this mural is not going to be seen from Clinton or Inverness. And it doesn't sound like it's going to be visible to adjacent community or neighborhood. So I'm wondering why the applicants submitted an application.
I felt the same as Denise. It didn't feel like public art to me. And I think when I zoomed in on the image, there was like a building image. If you zoomed in, there was a replication of a photograph.
Oh, there was?
There was. But you have to really zoom in. It's very tiny.
Really?
And it seemed like it
That's
was
really
more of
unusual.
a graph. It was like a photograph that was printed, and it felt like not public art, but like a building design thing. And so I was curious whether it really should fall in our jurisdiction either, because it wasn't public facing.
Which one? Was it the
It's not
third?
the Humane Society one. It's
Yeah.
No, I know. But I'm trying to identify where it is. So
She linked it, I think.
It was a link.
That was hard to find.
It was, yeah.
I wonder if this is even coming up for us. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that was.
Oh, there. Yeah.
That was a sample one, but she had another link, and then you could click on it and really zoom in, and there was an image of a child playing in the daycare
Okay.
environment. So I think that was the one that was representative of what might transpire, but I felt like Denise, where it's like if it's
Oh, here.
inward facing and it's not really, no one's painting, no one's doing an art, it's more of an architectural design thing, so it didn't feel like our realm.
In a way, this represents, along with the Lawrence Humane Society application, this represents an issue with murals, and that is the mural application has criteria for murals themselves, but nothing that specifies as to who should apply and when, and specifications about that delimit or at least specify that certain applications must be sent. It's confusing to me. Who must put in an application and who doesn't?
Sure.
I mean, it's just not clear to me.
Yeah, this is absolutely something that we can look over as a board and update this to have a little bit more clear language. What I'm seeing here is just including mural projects. But yeah, we can definitely work that out to better guide people in whether or not they want to submit a proposal. Absolutely.
Daniel B. Smith, I do also think it's interesting as far as like kind of what Marlo's getting initially, like architectural elements versus, a public art installation. I do feel that especially with like some of the construction and buildings that we've been seeing going up more recently, or just like sort of trends you see in architecture, there is sort of an inclination to include more, like figurative, like photo type elements and stuff, just as part of the design of the structure, and it really blurs the line and makes it tricky. So I think trying to define that a little bit more thoroughly would be good. It would be interesting to know the photographs in question of children playing, which are obviously very appropriate for daycare. Are those photographs that were taken by? Is there a photographer specifically? Are these stock images? Is the
Right.
photographer being credited.
I think that would be important to know.
Yeah, and a lot of gray areas. We're looking at like multiple overlapping gray areas.
Now, this is Denise. I'm wondering whether or not the photographs have not yet been chosen. And that maybe they're planning on taking pictures of actual children, but that actually creates issues in terms of obtaining permissions for that.
Yeah,
Well, you
absolutely.
just need a parental release, that's all.
You can, right?
But if this isn't, I think before we get into the fine points on that, we need to decide if we even need to, if we need to decide if we need to decide.
Right, and I don't know. I'm not sure that this falls within our responsibilities.
A little history. This came in last week, so I have not had a chance to sit down with Porter, although I know he has been in communication with Suzanne about this process, and he had encouraged her to apply. I think what we could do is say we can't move forward with this now because we're missing, some major visual components. We also have some significant questions about what our role is with this kind of project, and I can take that to Porter and try to wrap my head around it a little bit better, and also get some information about what his conversation with her was like. But I think, hearing your dialogue, it seems like there's just too
It's a
many
good
questions.
idea.
And my understanding is that the timeline is not, in the past, talking about some of these projects, timeline is sort of the limiting factor. And for this, it doesn't seem like, if we told them to maybe come back and talk to us again, doesn't seem like that's going to delay their plans too much.
Right.
And I do think that it would be beneficial for us to really try and clarify the requirements as far as, if something like this is required, but I also do think that it's nice to be open, that people, even if this doesn't fall within the requirements of what we need to, let people know that they can still come to us, and we're still happy to give input, especially if even if they don't necessarily have to, they might have concerns about whether or not people in their neighborhood or whatever are going to respond positively to it. So I think being a sounding board for some of those things is something I'm personally always happy to have our doors be open for folks to come and talk to us, even if by the letter of the law, maybe they don't have to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's well stated.
So do we want to have these individuals potentially come back and show us some more specific, especially the visual components?
Right.
And then in the meantime, maybe try and figure out whether or not they even have to. So kind of do both.
Yeah, this is Denise again. I think that it's important to have them specify what kind of imagery they're going to have. I know they said children, but it would be nice to see some examples. Are these going to be actual children, or like you said, stock imagery? And definitely it'd be important to clarify whether they need to submit an application in the first place, because the surrounding neighborhood is not going to be able to see it, but I don't really know based on this application.
Yeah.
My understanding of the location is that it's not right on a thoroughfare, but that it is relatively visible. It's,
Right?
again, I guess more gray areas. I mean, if nobody else has any pressing concerns, I think we could give them that feedback and
Okay.
table it for the time being.
Yeah.
All right, I'm seeing lots of nodding, looking to Zoom. I don't see anybody expressing any grave concerns, which means that we could move on to the next mural proposal, which I think is a little bit more in our wheelhouse.
Yes.
And I think we do have at least one person here to give us some information about that.
Yeah, Connie, if you're here, I see you up there. Great, thank you so much for coming. And I will turn it over to you for this next proposal. If you'd like to give us a little bit of a background and introduce this for us.
Yes, I'll share my screen.
All
I'm
right.
sure you have already seen the package, but it will follow my words. Okay, so we we're doing a mural. It's a mural installation, not on a public wall directly, but it is on wooden structure. And this is a partnership with the Lawrence Humane Society and Big Brothers. And, sorry, my allergies, and Big Brothers and Big Sisters. We did a workshop with about 25 Big Brothers and Big Sisters who came together and designed images of pets and some of whom they call family. They drew some animals that were at the shelter and talked about ideas on how this mural could look like, what it could feel like, and the majority of the youth wanted to be really colorful and happy, something that was inviting for the public or anybody that passes by that engages them into obtaining a new family member or pet. So a lot of my work as a public artist is with youth. That's my favorite kind of work. I have done a few murals with Carver Dual Language School. This mural at the Humane Society will be very hands-on. The kids, the bigs and littles, will be painting the majority of the background, and then I will finish and complete the design. So as you see in previous work, the youth do the big gaps of colors, the background, and then I finish it up and wrap it up. This is a unique location, as it is not a wall necessarily, but it surrounds a recycling bin. I will open it up for questions after I share some images of the design. So the animal designs were taken from the drawings of the youth. The colors and the patterns were also a collage of those drawings and colors used. That's a bunny, and that is someone's chicken, actually. And a dog. So they're a little bit abstract and still have the youth spirit to them. So I'll go ahead and take questions now.
This is Jill. I just wanted to thank you for another great proposal from you, and I absolutely love this project. I think it's so fun and just such a great way of a project for the bigs and the littles, because I know that's such an important program, and it's just so much fun, and I absolutely love it. So congrats on another proposal written. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And this is Dina Amont. I want to reiterate those comments too. I think the kids' drawings are really appropriate for the site. And I think it's really adorable, another great project. I did have, if I understood this correctly, I do have a slight concern about the timeline though. Because I think the priming was going to happen like on November 11th, which is just a couple days away, and then the painting, oh, it's right there, thank you, was the next day, right? So I wonder if there's enough time in the timeline to accomplish all that. But I do want to reiterate that I think the subject matter is just very appropriate and just really adorable.
Thank you.
Deanna Smith, I'll say that I think that I agree that this is a great mural proposal. I like the fact that it is a collaborative. You know, it's bringing together two organizations, which, I mean, don't intrinsically have that much to do with each other, but, you know, are both doing good things in the community. As far as the timeline is concerned, I know that originally we had wanted to kind of give an update actually on the previous mural that you had done, which also had a pretty tight time frame. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe you could give us an update on how that went, because I believe it's done. I don't think we have any pictures to share, but I'm wondering.
I do have pictures, but yeah, it's done. Oh, it is done, and sorry, my baby's sleeping. It's done. It has been varnished, and
ribbon cutting is on the 20th. So a lot of woman power there. And this mural is much, much, much smaller. So I genuinely do believe that we will follow through with the timeline.
This is Dina Amont again. So I agree with Daniel, what you said about the two organizations don't have a formal connection, but I was a big sister, and one of our activities was we would volunteer at the Humane Society. So there's definitely a really great connection, and I'm sure I wasn't the only big sister or big brother to do that. Just a formality question, Abby, maybe you know, or we can find out, when we make a recommendation to approve, does it not have to go to the city commission for official approval? And then the process can take place, or can
That's a
it,
good question.
Yeah.
can it happen anyway, or what? Maybe you can clarify that.
Yes, I'm going to have to do a bit of extra research just to make sure I get it completely right. I believe that I'm not going to say something and then have it.
Sure.
I will definitely double check immediately and let you know.
DLB Smith, yeah, I'm under the understanding that we make a recommendation, which then goes to the city commission. So I think I do agree that the timeline on this, is pretty quick, but the timeline on the previous mural seemed to really work out. Did you end up sticking to the 2-day? Was it 2 days for the F Mart mural?
Yeah. And I was going to show pictures after this, if you guys like.
Sure. Yeah, I think if you wanted to go ahead and show them now, Mary.
I guess I have a question if you're going back and forth about dates here. The 11th is Friday. So there really is not a city commission meeting between now and Friday.
Yeah.
So are you telling Connie not to go ahead with this?
That is a fantastic question. And as Abby sort of alluded, like maybe above our pay grade, especially for all of us who don't get paid anything.
Yes, I do apologize for not having an immediate answer on that. I can get an answer from Porter tomorrow. And if we do vote to approve, I will let everybody know how we should proceed.
This is Dina Amont. This is a mural on walls that go around a recycling bin. So I appreciate that it's being brought to the commission, but I also wonder if this is something that, since it's not really a mural that is going to be viewed in the public, on a large scale, that if that's really something that would even require being approved by this, recommended by us and approved by the city commission. So, yeah,
That is
a question there.
Just do it.
Yeah, I would say I would support that. In the absence of any other rules that say that can't be done. Yeah, I agree with Mary. Just go ahead and do it.
DLB Smith, yeah, I think that the larger question of whether or not the city commission is going to need to approve this or how that works out, I think we should. My opinion is that that's not our business. That is, so I think we should go ahead and give our approval if we see so fit. And then if the timing and whatever other approval up further up the chain is an issue, we should let the people further up the chain worry about that. But I'm personally in favor of just going ahead and approving the proposal, and applauding it. Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
This is Tim. I would like to make a motion that we approve this mural proposal as presented. And, if there's timing issues, there's timing issues. We'll just let those work their own way out.
This is Jill Stevie. I will second.
All right, great. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Jill. I will go ahead and call a roll call, and we'll see if we can get this approved, starting with Marlo. And then Denise.
I approve.
And Mary.
Approve.
And Dina.
Approve.
Marciana.
I approve.
And Rebecca.
I approve.
And Jill.
I approve.
And Tim.
I approve.
And then I will also approve. It has passed unanimously. Some questions about the chain of approval and stuff like that. Maybe we can get that some answers to those by email in between this meeting and our next one. But I think that the appropriate thing to do right now is to look at some cool pictures of the F-Mart mural, which I have seen. It is completed. I don't know if you've all seen it. We saw the proposal. It looks pretty similar. So Connie, I don't know if you have anything you could pull up real quick.
Who's going on?
Let me share my screen. One second. Sorry.
You're fine. Thank you so much for bringing photos. We're so excited.
Okay, can you see that?
Not quite. Oh, yep.
Okay, so that's the beginning.
Oh,
Yeah. Getting there. Getting there.
Rashid's so happy.
Yeah. Like the rice coming out of the clouds. And ta-da!
That looks just like your image in the proposal.
Yeah.
Please keep bringing proposals.
Yes. And of course, you are all invited to the ribbon cutting on the 20th.
Great.
This is Dina Amont. So I wonder if we have a place where this can be, publicly shown online on the city website or something like that. Do we have a place where we can, we can promote this and show it to the community?
And I could definitely ask some questions about where we can highlight this for sure. We have a new community engagement form that Porter's office is asking us to use for things that we would like them to promote. And this is like number one, send a press release, put this on social media.
Press release, social media, on the city website. I think that would be great. I mean, those are great photos.
Yeah, wonderful. If you'd be able to send some of those to me, Connie, that'd be wonderful.
I will.
Thank you so much.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Connie.
All right. Well, I think the next portion of our meeting is to touch it. We wanted to start having the budget in front of the commission every single month, just to give some updates. And so let me zoom this guy out a little bit. This is the same budget spreadsheet that you've seen from me for several months now. But just for consistency's sake, I'll go ahead and share my screen and put that up there for you guys. And I wanted to also take this time to give you a little bit of an update. I've been talking to the city finance department about our budget rollover. And not only is this something that we can do, I know how to do that. And it's, to get the wording correctly, this is a standalone fund, so we can request a a quarter one budget adjustment for the budget remainder. So that's looking at everything that we haven't spent from the year before as a one standalone fund to roll over into the next year. So our previous, the thing that was inhibiting us before was if we named applicants for our programs in the fall, would we be able to use 2023 funds to be awarded to them because we named applicants in 2022. And I've asked a specific question, and I'll be making the budget adjustment request to the City Commission on the 2nd of January. So it would be 2023 funds for 2023 program. We're just starting the application process in the fall. So I have my head wrapped around this, which I feel good about, and I feel like I know the right people to talk to about getting this done, and I will have some help along the way. So I just wanted to give you guys that update that I have this all ready to go, and I'm just waiting until the right timing. But we can go ahead and count on that.
So at this point, we have spent nothing this past year?
We've spent $500. And so I have the exact amount here of what our remainder is. We have, let me just find it. $48,265.70 is our remainder. And so we can request $3,000 be allotted to Phoenix Awards and the remainder to be rolled over, and then we can decide where to allot funds. So, yeah.
Do we need a separate meeting for that? Or how does that work? To decide where to put that money?
As I understand it, I just draft a request.
Okay.
That then goes, I'll have finance look over it, just because it's my first time doing it. And then that request goes to the City Commission. And as long as I put my request in at the first of, not the first of the year, but that first week, I'm going to try to do it on the 2nd as soon as I get back. That should be able to go to the City Commission. And so I can have something drafted up that we can approve in our December meeting.
And is this money something that can go to anyone or just our programs like the Phoenix Awards and things like that?
So as I understand it, we can just request the budget remainder as a lump, as a standalone fund, and then we can arrange that after the rollover happens. Again, I'm in conversation with finance to make sure that I'm getting this right, but they really haven't specified to me that things need to be allocated before the rollover.
Right, but I guess I don't understand, I'm very new to this. Is it something that just needs to go towards our programs that we put out? So not public requests?
If you're meaning about like grants and things like that, I think because the Community Arts Grants is a program that comes through the commission, I think we can specifically name that in the request, that those funds be used in that regard. I can absolutely double check because I'm also new to this and I want to make sure I get it right. But so far, yeah.
And that's what we discussed in the retreat, was to double the community arts grants. So that's
Yes.
what we're operating on.
Yeah.
So I'd like to proceed in that way. I think if there's further discussion, that January retreat would be an excellent time to reconsider where other funds could go. But yeah, I think we committed to that community arts grant fund, so I'd like to keep that because that's really important to the community.
Yep, and I know that I don't necessarily seem as confident about this because it's again my first time, but I assure you, I'm going to ask the right questions to the right people, and I've gotten the process started in a way that I definitely feel good about. But I encourage all of your questions, just to make sure that I'm not missing something. So,
Thank you for that reminder.
So just to be real clear. The monies that have already been allocated or spent, what category have they come out of?
I believe it was outdoor sculpture exhibition. I can double check that for sure. I'm remembering that from an email chain, and I don't have it in front of me tonight, but I'm like 98% sure that it was something related to outdoor downtown sculpture exhibition.
Okay.
Or exhibit.
So what membership subscriptions would, I'm seeing that as a line item, and I would have thought that would go on no matter what was happening.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what that is.
Okay.
That's a question for Porter.
Okay.
You're fine. Yeah, I'll ask him what that
Okay.
is. Yeah.
This is Dina Amant, just to make sure I understand. So I think I understand you saying that we'll ask for basically like a rollover, if that's maybe not the technical term, into next year, but then it does have to be approved by the city commission.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, my doing that at the beginning of the year is to make sure that it gets on the agenda and to keep everything moving. And I'm not sure at this point how long it would take for that to roll over. But I've reached out to Jeremy, who's director of finance, and asked for help, and he's agreed to walk with me through this. So I definitely feel that I have a degree of confidence that I'll receive some mentorship through this process.
So in theory, we could know by the retreat if we have the rollover approval, and then it would be up to us to determine, we know we're doubling those community arts grants, we've committed to that, and then we can, as a body, kind of determine where those other, if we want to double ODC,
Yeah.
or, what exact shape that'll look like by that time.
Yes, that's what I'm understanding at this point, and I don't have any reason to believe that things would change significantly.
B. Smith, and so when we put out we opened applications for those. In that statement, there was, I don't know how specific it was, but the statement did imply that it was going to be a larger than normal amount.
Yes, we'd increased awards from 5 to 10 to 5 to 15.
So that in itself, even though like there is the approval process, we've already publicly stated that the amounts we're giving out are going to be larger or larger limits. And from the conversations that we've had with some other folks, it sounds like this process is not unusual and happens pretty routinely. And so that to me gives a level of assurance that it's, while we do have to get some approval, that it's not a strange request by any means.
Yeah. Yep. I'm just going to scroll to this slide. Oh, that's our next one. Never mind. Does anybody have any other remaining questions about this? I just want to get all of your thoughts on this so I can ask all of the questions that I need to. And if you have questions after the fact, please email me. I'm not a stranger to email. And I'm always thankful for extra thoughts.
Did we set a date for the retreat, Mrs. Marlowe?
Mhm. So we have a tentative date, and it's on we're gonna hit it. Don't worry.
January 14th, right?
I have the 22nd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was January 14th?
That was supposed to be our monthly, and we decided to not have that. Yes. Yep.
All right. Well, hearing no further discussion, I think we can move on to the next item. Item D, which is reviewing the community arts grants scoring template.
Yeah, and this was something that Daniel and I spoke about last week when we met to discuss the agenda. If this is something that we want to do as a group, or if this is something that we think maybe the grants and advocacy subcommittee might want to just take a more in-depth look at. And this is the first time that I am seeing this document. I've seen it for several weeks before this, obviously, but this is the first time that I'll be using it, obviously, or, aiding you guys as you use it for community arts grants. And I left it as is so you could see, how the data was input here, but this is the 2020 Community Arts Grants scoring form, and these were some of the applicants, and I think, this is the metric that you guys would have used, community value, project quality, application quality, whether or not it achieves the goals of the application, and overall merit. And so if we want to spend some time looking at this now, if we want to adjust any language, I think we can, unless you think it's something that a subcommittee should do. I'm open to either, obviously.
This is Mary. I think it's great the way it is.
I feel the same when we've already opened the grants. I know someone who
Yes.
writes grants quite often. I always look at those matrices.
Yes.
So I wouldn't hesitate
It's a
for us
little
to
late.
get our little fingers in there this late
Yep.
in the day.
Okay.
This
Okay.
is Denise. Plus, I want to add that I don't recall when we applied the scoring sheet the last time that there were any particular problems.
Okay.
So I agree with the others that we should just move forward.
I certainly have no objection to sticking with what has worked in the past, and I agree, Denise. I don't recall there anything seeming out of place.
It's been a while, though, I admit.
All right, excellent.
So we can move right along. No reason to belabor things. Up next, we actually have an update on submissions, which I'm eager to hear about. I'm sure the rest of you are kind of eager to hear how many submissions, applications we have rolling in.
Yes. At this point, we have had only 2 submissions for all of the programs. We've had one Phoenix and one Community Arts Grants. And I think we have some opportunities here to think of some ways to market our programs. I've already submitted it to the community engagement and creative resources department to post on the city pages and have them send out their own press release. I sent one out immediately, and I believe it was already sent out earlier this week, just to bump that. But we have another month, and I'd love to see some more submissions.
Abby, if you could let the Phoenix committee know as those artist things come in so that we can start talking to the
Absolutely.
other artists.
Absolutely.
And is this what went out? This was on the agenda, or as part of the agenda package? And on the request for qualifications for the Phoenix Awards, it has all the information that we changed.
Okay.
So which set of information actually went out?
I apologize. I definitely worked very hard to make sure all of the information was correct. I'm not sure why. It's probably just an oversight for me, including the wrong one.
In the pamphlet.
In the agenda packet.
Yeah, could you check, please? Because
Absolutely.
this still refers to this being the 28th annual, and it has the budget for the artists is $1,800, and
Okay. Yeah.
none of those things are the current state of what we had talked about.
Correct. Yeah. I will double check.
So if you could check that, I'd appreciate it.
That'd be great. Because I started to email a few artists on campus, professors, and in Topeka at Washburn. So I've been trying to get some artists' addresses so I went to the Phoenix to look at some of the pieces there to see if I could find an artist whose work would be closest to what we're looking for. Although I was unable to get contact information from the Phoenix Gallery, but I took names down and tried to hunt them down on the internet, and I was not very successful, so it would be nice to know if everything online is current.
Absolutely. I'll send you an
Okay.
email tomorrow. Yep. Confirming.
Thank you.
Yep.
We can definitely get it out on the Art Center social media. I'm part of like a bunch of Lawrence Arts Facebook groups, so I can post things on there.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be
As
great.
someone who writes grants too, I feel like they always come in last minute.
Yeah.
So I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think we as a body can do our diligence and just get it out to our networks, and that's a pretty big
Yeah.
reach.
What I can do is I can send you all the materials and some example posts, and so you have what you need to go forth. And,
Yeah, we'll get them out.
yeah.
This is Tim. I was wondering if possibly, like the last 3 weeks, weekly, we could send out kind of a countdown, 3 weeks before they close, 2 weeks before they close, because, just as the blast, like when we announced it, because people do tend to wait to the last minute, they're busy and that sort of thing. So I think we want to communicate as often as possible.
Great.
Keeping it in the forefront of people's minds.
Yeah, this is Dina. I sent out the information that you sent to us. I forwarded to a lot of contacts, and but I agree with that. Like, people are super busy, so
Yeah.
just getting that in front of people a couple weeks before would be a great idea.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Denise. I'm concerned that we don't have that many applications for the Phoenix Award, so I don't know if I should start hunting additional names of artists, where to go and how to get their contact information. What do you think, Mary? What has previous person who's no longer on this committee, who was on the Phoenix Award, what did she do?
Oh, what we did the last time was beat the bushes, and I finally found somebody.
Yeah, you found him at the office where you get your haircut.
Right.
Okay, so I'm wondering what to do at this point. Does
So
anybody
I
have
think
any
certainly the optimum thing would be to get the word out as much as we can, and try and get artists in. What we've found in the past, that unless people kind of get a personal invitation, if it's presented to Dina, you really ought to apply for this. But just to have it just out there, it kind of,
it doesn't stick enough
yeah,
to people's memory.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, they get so much stuff.
Daniel B. Smith, I think that, like, obviously, it will be interesting to see if we get applications for all three of the programs rolling in, like, later in the process. I do also think that if finding an artist for the Phoenix Award, it has been like a recurring issue, that maybe that's something, I don't know. I mean, it's something to talk about long term. Like, or do we want to struggle each time, or is there any way we can possibly make that easier, other than just pulling people's arms?
Well, if it's a financial issue and we have this rollover, there's an opportunity to expand the budget a little bit. Because that could be, I know we've talked about it before, when you're doing so many awards and they have to be durable and just all these things, that could be restrictive for somebody.
Yeah.
But we're able to put a little bit more into it.
Yeah, Danielle, this is Mary. I think it's just like casting for a role in a show. If you want a good artist, you're going to have to look for him.
This is Dina, and I agree with that. But has anyone else noticed the trend recently that when there's a call put out for anything, whatever it is, it seems like 9 times out of 10 there's an extension put on it because there's not enough applicants, right? So I think maybe it would be in our best interest to kind of try to head this off before it happens, and then maybe have Plan B in place, if we end up with, not enough applicants.
This is Jill. That's a really good point, Dina, because when did we announce this to go out?
November
A few weeks ago.
It was, October 17th was when they,
So for an artist to come up with an idea and all that, I agree. I think it's a very short time window.
They have 2 months?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 2 months.
Like, maybe that's not, I guess, I'm not an artist, I don't know, but.
I think what's probably happening is that a lot of people have seen it and been like, oh, this is great. And it's, an open tab. And they haven't filled it out completely, and they just need to
push.
Yeah, they need constant
Personal
reminders
invitation
and.
push.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think all of your ideas for marketing are spot on, and I'll get on that from the city side to figure out where we can push that, and I'll get materials out to you.
Yeah, and I think it's great to know where we are, and I think that this body has talked in the past about trying to explore some new ways to get the word out and get people a little bit more engaged with the sort of things that we're doing. You know, whether it's like a shared social media account. Some of that stuff has been considered in the past. I think that might be like an ongoing challenge that we'll just have to keep thinking on and keep each of us independently bothering people we know. I've reached out to some folks who I interact with frequently at the local papers to try and get some stuff run. I think some of that stuff is still probably possible depending on when a slow news week comes up. I think we'll just have to keep working on it. And when we talk about the probably near future subcommittee meetings that we'll have, that can also be a time for people to try and brainstorm some innovative ways. But I think knowing where we are is a good start.
Frankly, I'm thrilled that we're still over a month out and we already have an application.
I never turn anything early.
No,
Me
neither.
Yeah.
So,
I think I was feeling freaked out because of my novice in this, and it's great to hear you say that. Yeah.
Our next agenda item is simply reviewing the fall program dates. We already mentioned that October 17th was when all 3 of the program applications opened. And then all 3 of them will be closing in December. 2 of them will be closing December 17th, and then I think is it Phoenix that closes December 2nd? Is that, yeah, the odd program.
And we're reviewing, the only one of the programs that we had verbally said that we were going to be reviewing at the December meeting is Phoenix. Depending on how many we get, I think it would be pertinent to just go ahead and review everything that we've got unless we decide we want to wait if we're going to extend some of these. I'm not sure if that's something we should decide now. I just wanted to open that up and say we haven't decided when we're going to review for community arts grants or sculpture exhibit.
So the Phoenix Awards are due the 14th, so that one was due earlier, is that, or when was the due
it
date?
says that the second.
I'm sorry, there's so many dates up here. Yeah, so they all open the same day, which was October 17th, and community arts grants and outdoor downtown sculpture exhibition, those both close on December 17th, so that's a full 2 months, and then we decided to close applications for Phoenix on the 2nd.
I think that was because we thought that they had to be reviewed at the December meeting.
Sure.
And I think in the past, the subcommittee has reviewed the awards first and made a recommendation at the meeting. So if we want to extend that date a little further,
Yeah,
Yeah,
this
why
is
not?
Tim. Were we accelerating that because we weren't
We were
100%
trying to
sure about
get-
the funding?
Yeah.
yes,
But now that we know that
Yes.
it's rolling,
yes.
we could push
Then
that
we
a little
could-
bit?
Yes, we
Yeah,
could.
Okay.
okay,
So that might be really good.
absolutely.
Another thing you could do is wait till December 2nd.
Right.
Email us,
Yeah.
okay, we have 10, or we have 2, you know,
Yeah.
and then we could decide, hey, let's go ahead and extend that, or hey, 10 is a great number, and then we can review those. Maybe it could be an email thing on the
Yeah.
second, just to check in.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah.
Or maybe the 3rd.
And let's
I
see
guess
who,
people do it
let's
at midnight.
see what we've got to.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely, yeah.
Exactly right.
Yep, I'll send that one to you tomorrow.
And so for all 3 of the subcommittees, you know, we had discussed the potential for them to have their quarterly meeting. And I think it was the Grants and Advocacy Committee, we wanted to have meet in the next couple weeks. And then the Phoenix Award Committee, obviously, we just discussed sort of the timing around that. The Outdoor Sculpture Exhibition one, we can all check off in our head that we don't, it's not a rush. I think before the January retreat would be nice, but at least for me, it's convenient to know that this one's urgent. Worry about this one later. So I think that if we wanted to try and come up with, I don't know what parameters people have for the Community Arts Grant Subcommittee, which is, in case people are wondering, myself, Tim, Jill, and Marlo. When do you all think would be the best? Community Arts Grants.
It was a grants and advocacy.
Grants and Advocacy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
So what I'd love that group to do too is not only manage the community arts grants, but also look at outside grants, like we did the KCAIC one. That was really beneficial, but if we could all be sort of searching for other opportunities, like had the NEA funding, like came into us this year. Stuff like that. I think we should be looking outside as well.
Tina B. Smith, would you define that as homework, Marlo? Are you giving us the members of the subcommittee homework? Okay. Well, I will personally write down that I have homework to do.
Notes that we have homework.
Yeah, I can, or Abby can remind the community arts grants and advocacy subcommittee that we'll start maybe looking for some other possibilities. Other than looking over the basic dates, though, I think the Phoenix Award subcommittee, the one I'm not on, it sounds like you all have a decent idea of ballpark when you're going to want to meet up.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Between the second and the.
Between the 2nd and the 14th. If the 2nd comes and we end up having still just one applicant, and you only need one ultimately, but if we end up.
This is a tough one, though.
Yeah, I think being open to the possibility of extension is always good. And I agree with the sentiment that was expressed earlier that for whatever reason, who knows, pandemics and all sorts of stuff in the world, stuff like this seems finding applicants can be hard these days. So that's all I have to ramble about with these three. I have homework. Does anybody else have any other concerns about the current trajectory for the three programs that we set in motion? If not, we can look at item G, which is revisiting the letter. I think this will be the last time we really touch on it before it goes.
I thought it had already been sent.
Oh, yes, it is. So I wanted to just let you know sort of the process, which we've sort of gone back and forth on whether or not it needs to go to city manager report, or if it goes to through the Parks and Rec channels, and that's what we had decided on. So I've submitted it
To whom?
to Derek, and Derek is going to take it to. Derek is director of Parks.
I know who Derek is.
And I was advised to do that by Porter, to take it through that chain. And that's what we've done. And I will let you know what comes of it. And I've agreed to meet with whomever I need to give background. But we've done what we needed to do on that.
Abby, this is Mary. I was a little surprised to see that the letter was characterized as a request for a director, because I don't see it that way.
Where have you seen that?
On the agenda.
Let me see. Revisit. Daniel B. Smith. I see it here listed as just the LCAC letter to City Commission.
Yeah.
And I understand your concern, because I was worried that it was going to be seen, the letter as written. I think you did a great job writing it, the two of you who collaborated on that. I was worried because it does have sort of multiple things that it sort of is requesting or suggesting. I was worried that it might come across as an all or nothing thing, that we want all of this stuff now, I think the letter actually came across in a really good way as stating, here are multiple recommendations that are not directly tied together, and that they don't have to happen in the same timeline. So that was my interpretation, and I think that how it's written, it should come across to the City Commission that, while the director level position specifically for the Cultural Arts Commission is great, that the other things, specifically the funding channels.
I think the funding is the most important part of that.
Yeah.
And it concerns me that we have waited over a month now, after it was approved by this committee. And now, instead of going to the City Commission, it's going to Parks and Rec.
We've had lots of discussion about the right channels for this, and I was advised not to take it directly to the commission. I was advised.
May I ask for what reason?
I am not prepared to answer that question in a way I would feel comfortable. I don't know. There's a lot of, as someone new to the city, is a bit of chaos.
Naomi Smith sorry, Tim, is the letter going to Derek, is the idea that Derek is then going to be the one who takes it to the
Yes.
city commission?
Yes, as opposed to myself. And he will take it to Casey Toomey, who is overseeing Parks and Recreation. And then she will make
And then she will take it to whom?
the city commission. They have to, yeah. That's what I was told to do, and that's what I've done. I do apologize for
I
the
know
ambiguity.
that there is going to be another request on PGT funding from another group. I would hate to see this get so tied up going through different appropriate channels that it never gets to where it's supposed to get to in time to have any effect on budgeting.
Sure, yeah. I think that's a very valid concern. I have a good relationship with Casey, and I think I'm still learning what I can and cannot ask of her, including updates about this process. I feel like because I've been advised by Porter to try this way, I want to see that through at least first, and if it doesn't seem to be working, I can revisit and try something else. Yeah, basically what I'm saying is I'm going to try this because that's what I've been advised to do, and I don't feel comfortable doing it a different way. But I can keep tabs on it. Sorry.
Would it be inappropriate for us to just send something individually? Like, I'm not bound by any, administrative procedures. So as a commissioner, can I just email the commissioners my opinion on the matters? And we can be unified.
I
in our
agree with that.
individual
Mrs. Denise,
Yeah.
could you clarify a little bit what you
But then you
mean?
could only, I'm sorry.
I wouldn't sign on behalf of everybody, but could I send that letter and sign it with my name and email it individually to the commissioners? And everyone would be willing or happy to do the same if it's up to I don't want to put anyone else in an awkward
Okay,
position.
so just so I understand, you would sign your name to the letter, but it would just be you sending it,
Right,
rather
as an
than,
individual.
even though we have all agreed to this.
Right, and then you could volunteer to send it yourself as well if you wanted to.
Daniel B. Smith, I think that it's good that we as a group are taking the proper channels. I do think, just from my personal opinion, from what I understand of procedures, I think if anybody who's a part of this commission wanted to send it independently and say, hey, this is a copy of a letter that the Cultural Arts Commission has sent on to Derek, who is giving it to Casey, and I think it's really important for you to look at. So we have no idea essentially how that process is going to go forward as far as the timing. But if you wanted to send it yourself and say this is coming down the pipeline, and I think you should be looking out for it, and maybe bug somebody and see if you can take a look at it sooner rather than later. I mean, as an individual person, that seems totally fine. I already signed off on the official one, but I think that's fine. The one other thing that I wanted to mention that kind of ties into this whole thing with the timing of it is that when we were putting together the letter, we had also talked about the fact that in addition to sending the letter, we also wanted to potentially reach out to some of the folks on the commission and just have some one-on-one conversations and just talk through with them, and then also potentially give a presentation at the city commission. The timing of those things we had kind of discussed previously. I think other people had better opinions than I did as far as what order we should do those things in, but I do think that since we're talking about timing, it would be nice to revisit that and say, okay, this letter it's going. It might take longer to get there than we want. Did we want to have those conversations one-on-one with some of the city commissioners before the letter gets to them? Because that could be an option which would kind of achieve maybe a similar goal to what you're talking about, Marlo, as far as sending independently. Maybe you could just reach out independently if you happen to know somebody on the city commission and just take the letter with you and have a conversation about it, that could maybe achieve a similar goal. And then also, if we did want to go and give a presentation to the city commission, would we want to do that before the most formal version of the letter gets to them, or do we want to wait until after it is gone before them? So those are just a bunch of open-ended questions I'm throwing out.
Would the process of doing a presentation be faster than this channel for the letter? Because if so, let's do it.
Oh, I have no idea. That would be another.
I don't know what that process is.
Yeah.
I guess I would just be, I am in favor of the fastest process. So like whether that is presenting, meeting people individually, sending an email, you know, of the letter, whatever it is, I'm always on the point of expediency.
This is Denise. I do have a thought about that, that if one of us sends the letter forward to the city commission members, I'm just wondering if that would be more confusing to them as to why was this sent now? All the other commissioners are not listed or named. So I think that might be confusing. I'm not saying that I'm not supporting you, of course, but it's just a thought.
Would Daniel's approach be confusing? The idea of sending it, not saying this is my personal letter, but saying this is coming down the pike and we thought you might want to have an awareness of it on the way.
I think it would still be confusing, and it might muddy the waters. But I don't really, that's because I don't know what's going behind the scenes, and one never knows what goes behind the scenes.
This
I don't
is,
see how it can get any muddier.
Well, you do have a point there.
I think these are all valid points. This is Tim. But I think if we're going to go the route of sending a letter like has been proposed, we would be better off to talk to individual commissioners on our own. I just think that's a better approach. I'll take the time to do it, and I think we all should agree to do that to some extent, but I would rather call a commissioner and say, hey, can we have 20 minutes to talk about this, than have multiple copies of the same letter circulating, because I think it's going to get the attention that junk mail gets at that point. I mean, sitting face to face with somebody and talking to them is just far more effective.
And bringing a letter, perhaps.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Should there be a coherent strategy? Like, would it be chaotic if we all just broke up tonight, said, oh, everyone contact commissioners, and they get 10 different requests from 10 different humans?
Daniel B. Smith, I feel like we'll probably be more received if we don't all
Swarm.
I know this same commission at the same time. As far as breaking down how we want to go about that, it's a little bit in the weedsy, but I do think it achieve. To me, I think that's going to achieve a similar goal to trying to get those that communication and that understanding going.
That's why it would be so much easier just to get the letter out there and follow up with conversations.
Yeah, so this is Dina. So obviously there's a lot of frustration here about the slow process to just get a request to the city commission. And we're coming up with some really creative ways to get around it, which I think are great ideas. But I also agree that we've had this ready to go. And actually, I was under the impression too that it had already been sent at our last meeting or maybe at the retreat, but I thought that it had already been forwarded appropriately to the city commission. So I don't know what the impediments are there, but I think the best thing, most ideal way to deal with it is to just get it into the city commissioner's hands as soon as possible without a lot of red tape and bureaucracy and end running. And I love the idea of meeting with people. I think that's a great thing to do. I also agree that we could all probably spend 5 minutes tomorrow getting an email out, and that would be really expedient. So but I think you're hearing just a lot of frustration that this has been something that's been pending for a long time, and that I think maybe I don't think I'm alone in thinking that it had already been sent. So So I'm not sure I have an answer or a suggestion, but I think getting it into the commissioner's hands is the end result that we want. And I think I'll speak for myself, just saying that it doesn't seem that it should be that complicated.
Dean B. Smith, I would like to, I mean, this is just like splitting hairs, but I agree with that, like coming to this meeting, I think we're all under the impression that it had been sent. And I think that, you know, from where I am, where I signed the thing and I delivered it. And I think for the folks that are in this room, we have sent it. There's just, there's other people up the chain who are still in their part of the sending process. I'm wondering if maybe, in addition to, I think setting up one-on-one conversations with some of the people on the city commission, just sort of like, you know, prepare them that it's coming is a good idea. And I think that's something we can be strategic about. I might also, and feel free to shoot me down, Abby, but I might also chat with Derek and maybe reach out to Casey and ask them about that sending process and see if I can, because I know Abby said that, you know, as far as like, you know, you being new in your position and not fully understanding some of those channels, you didn't feel super comfortable pressing the issue, but I'm always happy to bother people, so maybe I will be the one who bothers these people, so you don't have to literally annoy your boss.
And this is Dina, so I will support you on that too, Daniel. Just as a citizen, I'm in favor of eliminating as much bureaucracy and red tape as possible. So
This is Tim, and you know, I guess, I mean, there's a lot of newness here, you know, with Parks and Rec being involved and all this stuff. But, you know, if we're going to have a retreat in January, I mean, this is a prime example of when, you know, maybe Casey and Derek need to come to the retreat for part of the retreat. And we need to say, how do we eliminate these communication issues? Because if we want to send a letter, it shouldn't take 3 weeks to work it through your process. That's really bad internal customer service, right? So how do we fix that?
That is our role. Like, I think we're an advisory board to the commission.
Right.
I think that's in our mission statement.
Exactly. So
yeah. So if we are the advisory board to the commission, why are these other people between us and the commission?
Should be easy to advise.
Yes.
Dean Levy,
Should have a more direct line.
I would like to, I mean, just for the sake of clarity, let you all know that the monthly meetings where Abby and I meet and discuss the agenda, Derek and Roger.
Yeah.
It's so confusing because it's Derek, Roger. Okay, but Derek and Roger are usually there. They don't say almost anything, but they listen in. So we have Derek's ear. Derek is, I will add to my homework list that I'm gonna talk to some of these up channel folks and see if we can get that moving along. But I do think that we should still plan on individually scheduling some conversations.
I don't think we should schedule the conversations until we know when the letter is going to reach people, because that's
agreed.
spinning our wheels. It's, you've
Okay,
got to
well,
build for
Yeah,
something
to
like
talk to
this, you have to
somebody.
have some momentum.
To talk to somebody about something that they don't know anything about.
Yeah, and then by the time they get it, they've forgotten they talked to you. So it's
Is there
waste of time.
availability right now?
Okay, well then I'll move forward with bothering people and hopefully get a solid date when they will receive it. And if the answer I get is a question mark, I will relay that. So we'll have some follow-up communication over email, by which I mean I will email Abby and Abby will email all of you so I don't violate the Open Meetings Act. But that seems like a good first step.
So let me just clarify. Neither Derek nor Casey would have the authority or the permission to change the letter in any way, correct?
Dean B. Smith, no, not at all. I mean, my understanding is that Casey just serves at the agenda for City Commission. So, but no, the letter should not be altered at all.
Well, how can they without our permission?
I mean, this is
If you
just,
signed
I
us.
mean, this is just a suggestion. Anyway, this is our opinion.
I'd be curious to know, this is Marlo, how the other advisory boards do it. So like, I know there's sustainability advisory board, there's housing, there's all these other boards.
It's
How
planning.
how do they advise? Like, I feel like if we're just kind of preaching to the choir every week in our own bubble and it's not going beyond this room,
Yeah.
then our role is ineffective. So I'm just curious like what the process is with other boards.
This is Jill. Are they also run by Parks and Rec?
No.
So maybe that's our holdup. I mean, if that's, I mean, if he has to go to Derek, to go to Casey, to maybe go to the city commission,
Or maybe go to Craig first.
maybe. Just clarity.
I mean, this is Tim. I could be talking out of turn, but I don't see that it has to go to any of them. I mean, we're the advisory board to the commission, and one would think that we could author a letter, sign the letter, and dispatch it directly to the commission.
Don't ask permission.
And we could CC them on the letter, but I don't see that we actually have to go through layers. And I think, again, this is the newness, and you know what? We want to be a team player, but we don't want the team scoring in our own end zone. Right. So, lesson learned.
Daniel B. Smith, I feel like this has been a super constructive conversation. I will say that, as far as how do other boards function, especially advisory boards, how do they pass on the communication? To that end, I will say that the membership for all those boards is listed on the city website, and there's nothing stopping any of us from reaching out and asking friendly questions about how they operate. In general, I think would probably be a positive thing for people who are on all sorts of boards, and I guess that kind of will segue us into a conversation we'll have in a little bit. But the other thing I'll say is, as far as the layers, I know that in the very least, and it does seem like there's a lot of layers, I know in the very least, as far as the city staff's concerned, just that the city commission, they don't make their agendas, they don't. So if there does have to be somebody there to compile the stuff for them, just because they don't have enough time in there to organize all the documents and get all that stuff together. So there's always going to be at least that layer.
A single gatekeeper, probably.
Yeah.
Right.
But I do agree that less layers is good, and I think we can look into some of that. And with the newness, maybe, I mean, part of my homework will be bothering Derek, and I'll ask him. If maybe in the future that step could be skipped, and then I'll report back to y'all. I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'd just like to say I completely understand your frustration, more than I can say. So.
Because we have sent letters before and it was never.
Yes, it was
complicated. It just, yeah.
So I do feel like we have some concrete steps. I'm a little bit unsure specifically how they're going to work out, but you will all be updated via Abby, Kansas. As far as trying to get through things in a relatively decent amount of time, we can look at old business. Old business is what's next on the agenda, and it actually begins with an update on TGT from Denise, and I believe we gave you a heads up this time.
Yeah, well, there's not much, but there were two meetings, informational meetings, one on October 27th and October 28th, and I did attend the October 28th.
November?
So where is it on this?
November what? It's like November,
I don't think it's November.
no, it's like December 1st or something.
Yeah, actually, we are looking at individual, we'll be scoring, and we need to submit that by December 1st. So,
So the deadline is December.
and then the
Pardon?
presentations are going
The
to
deadline is
be
December 1st.
Friday, December 2nd, December 1st, and possibly December 2nd.
They're reviewing them in December. So they're due in November.
November 20, right?
I think it's,
It's
yeah.
November
20.
20.
Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds right. It's coming up.
Here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was right in front of me. So that's what I have to report. And I did contact Roger to see if there were any applications that were submitted, and he was to return to the office today, and I haven't heard from him. So that's the latest I have. Any questions, you guys? Okay.
Great, thank you, Denise, for
You're welcome.
the update. The other two items we have on old business, the first one is reviewing the proposed date for the January retreat. We were looking at January 22nd. And that was something which, tangent, like everyone sort of thought would work.
January 22nd?
January 22nd. So now's the part where you pull out your phone and look at your little calendar. And if we could lock that in tonight, I think that would be excellent, but let's see.
I do remember. it-
10 a.m.
Yeah, a 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Can't do
Or
it.
whenever.
Do you have a conflict?
You
Are you
must have a
checking?
show.
Oh, it's just mornings, Sunday mornings.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, there's technically nothing be holding us to a Sunday morning. We can choose whenever we'd like to do this.
Yeah, can we not, I agree. Sunday morning is just precious. So,
Is Saturday better?
I often have kids things on Saturdays, but I don't have anything yet, so I could isolate it.
I'm more than happy to do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I think whatever works for other folks. So that's Saturday, the 21st. Is that sort of what we're considering?
The 22nd is fine. Ignore me. I don't care.
Would it be better if it was later in the afternoon?
what time did we have it when Porter was still with us?
Like 3 to 5 or something?
Yeah, that's right, it
This
was 3 to
afternoon.
5.
Maybe just not Sunday morning to.
Sunday morning is,
Quiet time,
I mean, right,
Would be great.
like 3 to 5 on that day?
right, that would be fine with me.
And I know that we have our, some friends on Zoom, so just to make sure that they're in the conversation and are able to speak up if January 22nd from 3 to 5 absolutely does not work for them. I want to make sure that they know that we're eager to hear.
This is Marciana. Sorry, go ahead. Was there some? Okay. All right, this is Marciana, and that works for me.
All right, great.
This is Rebecca.
It's for me. Excellent. Thank you both so much.
Okay, that sounds good.
And then last year that was on Zoom, but this time it will be
In person.
in person.
Are we going back to the art center?
There's a rehearsal at the art center on that time of day.
I can certainly look into other venues like the Carnegie or one of the
It's possible.
classrooms at the library.
Library would be a good spot too.
That's great.
We have a show at the theater that afternoon, but the conference room won't be used. But I'm not offering Zoom capabilities.
Yeah, that, I'm trying to keep that in mind now when I'm thinking about venues. But I'm pretty sure both Carnegie and the library and
Okay.
The library has the hookup already, so yeah, that might be a convenient one.
yeah, I'll definitely look into it to see if that date and time is available.
That's good.
So maybe we can, so it sounds like that date and time is going to work, and then the venue, we can explore a couple of these options, but,
Right.
so that's the first,
And we're sure it has to be a public meeting because it never has been before.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, it's my understanding that it does have to be public, and I know there's been some confusion around that. Yeah, that's the consensus that I've gotten from
Derek.
From who?
Because all those years that Porter ran it, it was never a public meeting.
We had wine at the meetings.
And,
Good
yeah,
conversation.
yes, and it was, it seems to me a retreat
you
ought to
ask?
be an opportunity to
Yeah,
out outrageous ideas.
Porter's
Should be not.
one of the folks saying that it does technically need to be public.
Daniel B. Smith, yeah, I mean, my understanding of the Kansas Open Meetings Act is that, I mean, even though we're an advisory committee, just that if more than half of us are there and we're discussing matters relevant to the body, that the safe thing to do is make it open, which we did with our fall retreat, and we did. Yeah, I mean, it was technically it was posted and people could have attended if they wanted to, and they did not. It was not, it was not.
And I should say that prior to COVID, open meetings generally meant posting the agenda ahead of time and allowing the public to know where and when, and that they were welcome to attend the meeting. But it's not a meeting that we were acting upon. It's definitely a more informal type of meeting. I offered the Zoom component mostly for myself to record it and take the minutes. So yeah, it wasn't something, I hadn't reached out to Kurt, and we hadn't set up the Zoom, the YouTube link. So it wasn't live, but there was a Zoom option if somebody wanted to participate that way. We didn't have anyone who I asked for RSVPs a couple of days ahead so I would know how good the setup needed to be. And since I hadn't had anyone, we did it sort of the more informal Zoom way. But I'm taking it into consideration just because it's technically part of public meetings now. But I think it definitely pertains more to publishing of agenda prior. Does that make sense?
The other item we had on old business was simply revisiting subcommittee meetings, which we've already touched on a little bit here. I know that Phoenix Awards, obviously we're looking at December 2nd to December 13th, I guess, at midnight, to try and review those unless they want to do an extension. And then, but we've already touched on those. Outdoor Sculpture Exhibition. Does anybody else, do people want to brainstorm scheduling anymore? I think we've already done quite a bit of scheduled brainstorming.
I have to wait, don't we? A little bit to see how many they come in and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll wait.
So unless anybody really wants to discuss subcommittee meetings more, we do actually have a couple of other items on old business. One of which is revisiting the idea of having an open house / educational session for grant applicants. So that was something we had talked about doing. Abby and I talked about it a little bit. We wanting to make ourselves available to folks who've maybe never applied for a community art grant in the past and want some input. Is that something people are still interested in doing? I personally think it's a great way to make sure that the process is as open as possible, but depends on how stretched thin we feel at this very moment.
Abby, have you had any questions from people about the community arts grants?
I did have some questions. It was mostly, can I apply for more than one of the programs? To which I said, sure. And I haven't had any questions that were very detailed into the actual application process. I think it's a great marketing opportunity to advertise and make that available. It's something that Roger has done recently for TGT, and so the infrastructure is there. I could have him walk me through how he did that, what was helpful, having recently gone through that. It was a Zoom option.
Right, it was a Zoom option.
I think it could potentially work for people, if they don't feel comfortable coming out to something like that. I think we potentially may get more people come in that way, but that would definitely change up. I'm not sure if you guys have done this in the past, if what's worked well, but as a starting point, I think that could easily work.
Yeah, I think we've done it. We've done it in the past.
We've done drop-in office hours.
Yeah.
So there'd be a time frame. So it was less like Roger did the presentation, and I think the Porter's done the presentation for TGT. But I think with these programs, it was more of like a drop-in. You have questions between 3 and 5.
Yeah, we'll be
I
there.
like the drop-in idea because Roger had 2 separate dates, the span of time. I forget, I think was it 2 hours? I think, yeah, so that's a lot of time to hang out and wait. Although he did give a presentation and then answered questions on Zoom or whatever. I mean, it is some time to invest, so.
I mean, would people be able to sign up for a time period within that time period? So if it's open from 3 to 5, there could be,
Appointments.
multiple 15-minute slots or 30-minute slots. And then okay, well, if there are so many people that are signed up, then you will be there at the office hours. If nobody's signed up, then you don't need to go, or, you know, maybe nobody has questions, things like that.
Tina B. Smith, yeah, I think one of the things we touched on when we were discussing this in preparation for this meeting was wanting to make sure there is an RSVP process, and I think doing, little 15-minute chunks would be great, just so we can really know in advance, essentially, if anybody is actually going to show up. I like the idea of having it be open house, or having it actually be like office hours, and so people can stop by. So that maybe is something that the Community Arts Grant and Advocacy Subcommittee can figure out and take on. The four of us can man those office hours and do it that way. I'm more than happy to sit at a table.
If you're going to do it that way, you need to be prepared for people to come in with very specific questions. And anybody who's there needs to be really up on their grant writing and what you can do and what you can't do.
So do we want to try and figure out a prospective date for this, and then maybe figure out who's actually going to be at the table? I mean, it'd be great if
I'm knowledgeable enough.
If
I'd
we're-
be happy to do
Yeah,
that.
Marlowe's.
and if we're doing 2 hours, I mean, we probably won't even have to take shifts. We can all just hang out together.
Have some coffee.
I will opt out because I'm not even grant writing. For the process.
I mean, it could be a great learning experience also.
We want to avoid Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you don't.
But we want to do it close enough, like if the grant is due December 17th, maybe early December.
I think early December seems good. As far as venue, are we going to want to do it? Are we going to want to do it in person? Is that? I mean, I think that makes it
Yeah.
pretty approachable.
Fun.
With candy canes.
I'm definitely going to let other people throw out dates. I will pretty much accommodate whatever. I think. I mean, there's December 3rd is a day. December 4th is a day. If we really want to get early in the month.
Do you want to do a weekend or a weekday? Because, you know, that TGT one was a Friday afternoon, which, I mean, worked for me. It was easy to drop in for that.
Something you might consider is that December is holiday season, so weekends are going to be full of
Yeah.
That's a good
weekend
thought, yeah.
activities, shows,
That's a good point.
Santas, this, that, and the other.
Sure.
Not that everybody wants to see all that, of course, but just something to consider.
It also
It-
messes up the parking.
A Friday afternoon definitely sounds like it would make sense. So that could be like December 2nd.
I was screening that day, and I'm always chaotic on those cinema days. I hate to push it to the 9th because then it's right before. That's only giving people a week. Could do Thursday the 1st.
I'm more than happy to do Thursday the 1st. What do you know? I see Tim shaking.
I will
shaking
be
his head.
out of the country, so
How long are you going to be out for?
I come back third.
A third, okay. We could do the 9th. I mean, people only have a week, but
I think you need to give people more time than that.
I think so.
Could do early in the week, like the 5th.
Yeah, I mean, any other day is fine.
All right, the 5th is a Monday. I think Monday is actually a pretty good day for it.
Anything on the calendar.
Monday, December 5th, 3 to 5. Is that what we're thinking? I mean, I think that could work well for people. And I think that like we've done with other complicated scheduling things in the past, this can be the date for now. And if it turns out this isn't going to work, we can revisit it. But getting something on the calendar is going to be helpful.
I would say make it, I know we're focusing on the community arts grants, but we might make it LCAC open house. So if anyone, you know, from the other committees want to show up, if someone has a Phoenix Awards question, it's kind of a cool time to drop in anything you want to know.
Well,
Efficiency.
It'd be
Yeah.
after
The deadline's
the
before.
due date,
Oh, deadline's
though.
before.
Yeah,
Shoot.
it's a good idea, though.
Nice try.
Unless we extended it.
Mm-hmm. DLB Smith, so even if we don't have representatives from each of the different program areas there, we can always
We can speak to it.
field some level of questions. And so it is a little bit past 9:10 right now, so in the interest of time, I think the 5th of December from 3 to 5 seems like a good goal to have our little open house, get to know you, arts grants, tabling thing. So does anybody have any other concerns? If not, we can keep on trucking because we have a few more things. We've got a little bit more.
Where is it going to be?
Location, or does it have to be Zoomed? Because the art center location is kind of tricky for Zoom.
DLB Smith, I was thinking that for this we would just do an in-person
Oh, okay, great.
drop
Yeah.
by. I do not have a location to recommend though.
I can check art center schedule.
Do you want to try and find a location now, or should we
I can email you.
follow up? We'll follow up location. The next thing on our agenda is a synopsis of the Gateways meeting for those who are in attendance, which was Mary and myself. Mary, I don't know if there's anything specific you want to relay about the Gateways meeting we attended, which was over at the Sports Pavilion, but it was a pretty interesting public meeting about this new Gateway project, which will involve potentially installing some rather tasteful aesthetic decorations to some of the city's gateways, which would be, mainly the thoroughfares where people are driving into town. I thought it was a nice meeting. I'm happy to see more stuff. There's a lot of good feedback. Do you have anything else you want to add?
They had some very interesting proposals and some interesting ways of lighting the bridges, both underneath or standards on the sides of the bridges, that were quite attractive. Of course, I'm always looking at how much is it going to cost.
Mm-hmm.
And this was not, they have 2% or 3% of the project, which amounts to nothing. So it would be about $100,000 per bridge that would have to come out of the city money somewhere.
DLB Smith, one of the things that I really took away from it that I thought was the biggest net positive for sort of stuff we discuss is the idea that, people drive north into Lawrence from Baldwin, pretty frequently, and there's nothing there that really announces you're entering Lawrence, maybe a sign. And so to me, I think any sort of visual enhancement that, creates a grandiose atmospheric effect, either whether it's lighting or whether it's even just a big Lawrence City seal, I think is just going to get people thinking about the fact that, how much that enhances their enjoyment of being in our community. And so I think that further down the line, when we're talking about doing other things which visually enhance living in Lawrence, it's just gonna help people connect with that idea that it really does make a difference as far as quality of life, having beautiful stuff to look at. So
The concern that I heard, and I heard it mostly after the meeting, was that people concerned about the lighting or the whatever it was on the bridge or on the side, wherever it was, that it would be distracting. And that people, particularly cyclists, were concerned that attention would be drawn to that rather than to where the cyclists or the pedestrians or other people are. So, there are a lot of things, and I'm sure that the highway engineers take all that into consideration and work with all that. So, I thought it was very interesting. They had some pretty pictures.
So unless anybody else has any questions about that, we can move along to everyone's favorite category, which is miscellany. We have a few different miscellany for this meeting. The first of which is clarification on the recommendations regarding boards and committees or commissions, which Abby had emailed us about, and which seemed kind of vague, and I think people had some questions about. So Abby, do you want to provide as much clarity as you can, given that it's not really a thing yet?
Yeah. I wanted to give you guys access to this as soon as I had it, basically, and as soon as it went on the agenda for the city commission. I sent it to Daniel, and then the next day it went out to you guys. And this is another situation where I wish I had more information. It's basically just been announced from the city manager, Craig, that he would like to basically look at all of the different boards and commissions. The number is over 40. It's 40.
47, I think.
Yeah.
total.
And build a committee of 5 currently sitting board chairs, and we've recommended Daniel to be part of this, as you're on another commission as well. And through talking this over, the LCAC is definitely one of the more active and organized boards we have here at the city, and with having very little information on how this will be implemented, like I said, I can't speak on the future, but there's definitely other boards that I think they may. I think this is a conversation for maybe not the LCAC, for some other smaller boards perhaps, but.
DMB Smith, yeah, my interpretation is just that all of the boards and commissions, including some like joint boards, yeah, there's 47 total bodies which fall under that umbrella category, and a lot of them have just developed somewhat organically over the years. I don't know when the last time there was an actual thorough look at all of them and how they operate and how they interconnect. I'm sure some of them overlap in some ways, and so since it's grown organically, I think there's a desire to look at everything and say, is this all functioning in a way which is orderly? And I do think that we just speaking to the Cultural Arts Commission, I think we're doing a pretty good job, especially at the moment. Obviously, transition is difficult, but I think that our purpose and the expertise that we bring and provide to the City Commission is something they actually need, and I think that we're operating pretty orderly, and so I don't think that we as a body need to be super worried about this process. I am interested in being a part of the committee, as I call it. So it'll be interesting. There's not like a time frame. It's really just kind of like an idea right now.
Yeah.
There's not like any sort of specific goals or timeline for it or anything. So, but that's kind of what that is. Just to kind of like clarify that one mysterious email that went out. So I don't know if anybody else has any thoughts about it.
Thank you for your participation, or awful participation. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think it's an important conversation. It's not ominous. It's just, every now and then you really need to look at things. And if a committee hasn't met in 2 or 3 years, you have to ask why do we have this?
And some of the conversation earlier too about some of the channels and how things progress and how different boards or committees do things, I think is also interesting. I think that there's an opportunity for there to be some sort of like lessons learned from, if one committee does one thing really well, maybe that's something that another committee could learn from. And so that's something that I think there's potential for streamlining and making our lives a little easier. But I guess I don't know, I kind of thought people would have more questions about that, but that's where that is. It's in the early stages. And then what else do we have on here? Oh, so up next, I was not able to attend the ribbon cutting. I've had some stuff going on, but if anybody who is able to attend the Through Our Eyes ribbon cutting would like to speak just even briefly about the experience, or?
This is Denise. I attended, and so did Mary, and I think Dina attended as well, and there was a nice group of people, and I think that those who attended really appreciated it, and I really like how Porter organized it, and then had different speakers, so that's my take. Do either of you have anything to?
I thought it was fascinating to hear the artist.
Yeah.
And he brought samples of the materials that he used, the oxidized glass beads that compose the whole The
We
whole
could pick
piece.
up our
And-
own little bead and take
Yeah, you could take a bead and take it home, or several
it in your
beads.
house somewhere, which I have done. It's nice to see.
So yeah, I thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, this is Dina. I agree. It was really a great event. I think it was really well received by the public who was there. I assume there were a lot of local neighbors there. And yes, it was really nice to have a little component of the public artwork to be able to take home
It
with
was
you.
really nice.
So, yeah. I will say, too, that the artist did ask for if you have any great pictures, if you do visit there and you have any good pictures, to send the photos to him. He was trying to accumulate some photos, and I don't have his.
Somehow.
Yeah, I don't have his contact information with me, but I do have his card at home. I didn't think to bring it, but if you do have some photos, people interacting with it, he was really interested in getting some photos. So.
And Abby, maybe you could send
Okay.
along their contact information.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
so we're at the end of miscellany, which is just sharing of community events, which is where you discuss any sort of neat events you've been to or that you are going to. I am most certainly going to attend the November 20th ribbon cutting from 1 to 3 p.m. for the F-Marts.
Yes, same.
I'll be there for that. I don't know if anybody else has anything on their agenda they're looking forward to. It's okay if you don't. We are nearing the 2-hour mark, so it's okay if we can just say we'll see each other at that event. I think we all have various homework assignments. I have a few homework assignments, but if nobody else has anything else to share, I will go ahead and move to adjournment.
Second.
I guess I was looking for a first. So Mary, you can be the first if you want.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Oh, I second.
All right, great. So unless anybody has any complaints, we will adjourn. Our next meeting will be December 14th, right here in this room. I will not be in a wheelchair. I'll be walking around again. So
Good.
Not that you need to anyway, we just sit.
yeah, it's true. Yeah, just lots of things. Thank you, Abby. Thanks everybody. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you too much. Thank you so much for our Zoom participants as well. Have a good evening.
Ahoy.